Dina Does. I'm Dina, and I know a little bit about a lot, but I want to know more. So join me on this path to self-discovery. This week on Dina Does, we're talking forgiveness. And my guests today are two dear friends of mine who are also the founders of an amazing app called Forgivity. Welcome, Denise. Welcome, Veronica.
Thank you, Dina.
Hi. Thank you. Good to see you, Dina.
Yes.
So good to see you. I know we haven't seen or talked since we spent some time together over Easter week. So it's so great to see your shining, beautiful face. And Denise, I haven't seen you in person in a few months. So great to see you.
Great to see you too. And we're so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, forgiveness is a very big topic that has many layers, as we all know. For me, it's kind of never ending. Sometimes when you say, okay, I forgive that person or whatever, all of a sudden there's more layers to it and more working out. So I love that you have something tangible that you're giving us that we can work through the process of forgiveness, and perhaps some food for thought on different modalities that you can use. So I want to talk generally. I want you guys to explain first and foremost the app Forgivity. How did it come about? What does it represent in whole? Go for it.
You do that. That's you
my
do that
jam.
one. Well.
It's
Yeah.
my jam. So it was 2020 and we all watched George Floyd get murdered and experience the political unrest, the civil unrest, and the overwhelming pain that was just everywhere. We watched it on TV. We felt it ourselves, Um, and Veronica and I were working together and we decided we asked ourselves first before we came to a conclusion, like, how do we address this in a way that's, again, tangible, right? Accessible. How do we create wholeness around healing? How do we contribute in a way that's important? We were like, something needs to be done here. And so we did it. And what we started with was circles of women, much like this little circle that you see, but we had like 10 to 15 women in a group, and we were practicing forgiveness. We were exploring what forgiveness looks like and to each different person. And then within 2 months, we had a waiting list, and these women were from all over the country. And we decided we needed to expand what we were doing. And we were actually told, some of the feedback we got was like, you have to take this global. Everybody needs this. And so that's how Forgivity was born. And we sat down.
I love that. There's nothing more powerful than a group of women together, really. I mean, I strongly believe in women's circles, and we're just more powerful as a group. So I love how that's how it originated. So tell us about the app, exactly what it does, how it works, how it can help us forgive.
So I went to an app developer that went to school with my husband, and he develops socially conscious apps. And I said to him, is this something that, can we do this? Like, this is the work that we've been doing here with it. We want to have like one centralized place for everyone to be able to come in and you get resources, learn, maybe have an educational platform, still kind of playing around with what it was really going to look like, what the offering really was. And he loved the idea. Nothing like it exists right now and so yeah, that's how we started doing it. Denise and I got to writing content. First, we poured through decades and decades of research through cultural, societal, spiritual, religion, familial, all the different ways all over the world, and how we're taught forgiveness and maybe how we're not taught forgiveness. And one thing that we found is that everyone knows how important forgiveness is, but no one knows how to do it. There's no roadmap to it. And so, and another interesting caveat was that every religion has forgiveness in it as like the cornerstone. But there's always a little like contingency. So you can forgive others, but not unless they worship other gods, or you can forgive, but on this day, or you can forgive, but you got to go to that guy. And all of it is beautiful and ceremonial, and we really honor that. So this, we're not saying by any means that there's anything wrong with that, but we want to empower the user. So how do we do that? We do that through a neuroscience program where we are basically using neuroplasticity to retrain the brain. So because we know and forgiveness is important and we don't know how, we also don't know the detriments of living in a life that is what we coined unforgiveness. What does lack of forgiveness look like in our body? What does it look like in our families, in our lack of sleep? How is it contagious to others around us? And so it's just really just an educational program, step by step, that follows the acronym FORGIVE. And each step goes through, we use cognitive dissonance, cognitive behavioral therapy, emotional intelligence, dialectical behavioral therapy, and we put in a lot of science, but we mix it in with humor and fun and healthy gaming so that it just makes it enjoyable to be learning.
I love that so much, especially the background that I come from. You know, Italians love to hold a grudge.
Yes.
So, well,
It's funny because growing up, you know, there was always the aunt or the uncle that my parents didn't speak to, and it was just like kind of a way of life. I'm sure, like not just Italians, but yeah. So we almost grew up thinking it was okay to not have certain people in our life or not forgive or hold a grudge. So this, for some people, is really a whole new way to, like you said, reprogram your brain, much like a lot of things that we're reprogramming ourselves in life right now. This grand awakening is really a process of deprogramming everything that we were told was right and the way it was. And we're now seeing that it wasn't. And forgiveness, as I'm sure you discussed many times in your app, is really more for yourself. Obviously we want to be good to others, and the karma is real, but not forgiving someone, I discussed this with my daughter not too long ago, is really so, that phrase is so true. It's really poisonous on your system. And I'm learning how important the body does keep the score. And when you hold on to anger or resentment and all these low vibrational emotions, and forgiveness is forgiveness is a beautiful one, but holding a grudge is a super low vibration. It really affects you not only spiritually and emotionally, but physically, and can manifest itself in many ways, including disease. So forgiveness is so much more important than, some people will say, making the other person feel better. This is really about saving yourself.
Absolutely. Dina, to your point, we found in our research that it actually, holding grudges and the resentment and anger and all the things that were the unforgiveness behavior, affects every single system of the human body. Wow. Everyone. So absolutely, disease, and people don't realize it, right? And another thing I was thinking about when you were talking was, so many times that behavior is like, it's causing lack of sleep, right? You're laying in bed, or you're ruminating, or you can't sleep and you can't get this thing out of your mind. And I was thinking the other day, would I invite that person into my bedroom? But I just let them in. I keep the door open and let them come in every night, So it is all about ourselves. It's just about us. It's never about the other person. And we say one of our taglines is free yourself, finally.
Yeah, exactly. That's so beautiful. And like you said, a big point about forgiveness, and I know baby talked about this with Teresa, is when you say inviting them into your bedroom, forgiveness is not about bringing that person back into your life and into your space and into your soul. It's about letting go of that tie that you have. So it's even more so, a cutting of a cord that's still there and still affecting you. So it's the complete opposite of what people think. Oh, I'm not going to forgive her. I don't want her to be my friend anymore, this person. No. You're actually breaking that cord and that energetic, pull that you have that's inviting them into your bedroom when you can't sleep. And, most of the time they're sleeping like a baby.
You're not worried about you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. And then we talk a lot about boundaries, because boundaries are so super important. And this is, again, like just language we were never taught. We were never taught what good, healthy boundaries mean. Healthy boundaries within a family system, healthy boundaries within friendships, healthy boundaries with our partners, with our children, and with our coworkers. I mean, it is such a vital part of having a dynamic, healthy ecosystem all around us. And so, and this is exactly what we talked about, Dina, right? It's like, yeah, you can forgive and have a boundary, not let that person back into your life. And that's okay. And so there's so many misconceptions around what forgiveness means. And we're here just to unpack that all, because it's not forgive and forget. It's okay to forgive and remember it did happen.
Mhm.
If God forbid I lost a limb, just because I forgive doesn't mean I'm going to get my limb back. I lost a limb, it's gone. It's a real thing. And so there's this also, we talked too about this kind of illusioned sense of safety that living in unforgiveness gives us, because it's like now that's the boundary that's there, that's keeping me safe because I have a grudge, right? So it's like, and so if I let go of that grudge, I'm now unsafe, or I'm now saying what you did to me is right. And no. And so it's really complex. It's really nuanced. It's very sensitive. And that's why we really try to bring a lot of levity into the program, because there's a lot of layers to all of this. And it's not to say that it makes it impossible or daunting. It just means that like you're making a birthday cake, there's lots of layers that go on, and we have to pay attention to all of them. So we're really excited that the reception to the app has been as positive as it's been, and that it's being looked at in corporate America. It's being looked at on the individual level, because there's so many benefits from our own personal lives to our workspaces.
Yeah, I would imagine in the workspace there, that's a really important key to have. There's always going to be someone in the office that pisses you off, to bring this into that space where people can actually be together and just look at things from a different perspective and be able to work together in harmony. And again, not having to hold a grudge, or it will be a ripple effect, if there's not harmony within the workspace. So I love that you're bringing into that space as well, not just into the personal space, because that's what we're working on, is emotional intelligence, and being okay to be in this, business world, and let go of the masculine of it all and bring in emotional intelligence and divine feminine energy, like forgiveness and all of that, because you're only going to do better. It's only going to let the flow of abundance and everything else flow into your life when you're not, white knuckling all these different low vibrations. The other thing I wanted to mention was, there is so many layers, I think a lot of people are jarred of the permanentness of saying, okay, I forgive that person, but you don't have to have them in your life. You can do that on a temporary basis as well, which is what I feel I'm doing with some people in my life. I'm, as you guys know, because we've done some women's circles together and shared, there's a lot of, deep wounds that I'm digging up right now, that are, I believe in this, and I'm sure if you're listening to Dina Does, you believe in as well. A lot of it is not even ours, it's our ancestors, it's, generational. But as you're digging them up, this is deep, I hate to say the word hard, words or spells. This is work. And sometimes you don't have the emotional bandwidth for anything else right now, just to focus on self-care and self-love and dealing with these wounds in whatever way you have. And right now you may not have, like I said, the emotional bandwidth to take on that forgiveness with conversation with someone else. So it could be just a temporary, I'm going to release you energetically. And for now, I need to work on me. And maybe one day, and leave that open to the universe, we could come together and calmly speak through things and form a new relationship with a brand new start. But it's okay to put that boundary up, like you said, Veronica, of, right now, there's no ill feelings, but I'm just working on me and I'm cleaning up my side of the street. So let's give the respect to each other, and hopefully they're doing the same. And then one day you could come back. So it doesn't have to be such a permanent thing, because I know there's a lot of grief and pain with that, especially with family members, because when a relationship ends with a significant other, yes, sometimes they're not ever back in your life again, and they're not supposed to be. But with family members, there's always that little sting, that underlining, sting that goes along with it. So I think we just need to be gentle with ourselves on the process of forgiveness and the process of healing. And perhaps you can send a letter, a note, something that won't be as raw, just to let them know, like, I'm taking this break, still love you, I forgive you, but not now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think that boundaries are verbs and they're not nouns. It's
I
okay.
love that.
Right? It's okay not to have, look at that. It's a little visitor.
Yeah, we got a little orb
Yeah, we have
there.
a visitor. Look at that. Orb.
That's, because they shouldn't be so rigid. Time does change and time does heal wounds, and we do hopefully keep growing and becoming wiser and becoming more compassionate and having a more self-awareness. And so it's a beautiful thing. I'm happy that you said that. Yes, I'm just not ready right now. I need a little time, and I'll let you know when I am.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to keep that door open.
Also, you're talking about something that is deep and traumatic and big. And with Forgivity, we suggest starting really small. So while you have that boundary in place, and it's imperative, right? Boundaries are imperative for our safety. Practice on the little things, because then you build the muscle, you create forgiveness fluency, and you start practicing it everywhere. And as it gets bigger and you feel more confident speaking that language, then you can look at the bigger stuff. And then you've got it, it's cellular, right? At that point, it's a part of you. But running at the elephant, you're not going to win.
I love
It's
that. We talked
hard.
about that in our codependency podcast that we did with Terry Cole. And sometimes, the codependency relationship, putting up boundaries with those, directly very close to us, or children or spouses or whatever, it's hard to do. So you start with little things, like you said, the mailman, not being so codependent on the Amazon guy and putting boundaries up there. But that's a great way to do it as well. And she mentioned the hairdresser. I said, my hairdresser is in the main circle. But, perhaps they gave you a haircut that you didn't like, or did your color wrong. Start with that little forgiveness. My favorite phrase, and I say this all the time, is now micro habits, micro changes, baby steps. And perhaps this, like you said, it will be much easier to get into the flow of forgiveness when you start with the little things. Let me forgive my neighbor for blocking my driveway last week. Let me forgive the hairdresser for cutting my hair too short. And then, like you said, as you embody forgiveness, it becomes easier. And then the big forgiveness becomes,
like training
more
for any
gentle.
event. Yeah. Like training for any event, you don't just throw on a new pair of sneakers and run a marathon. You have to start with a mile and a half, and then next thing you know, you're at 26.2. So the big trauma is 26.2.
Exactly. I love that. So the steps of Forgivity, is it something that's interactive? Do you have a community that you work, all together, that you can come to when you're having a hard time with it? Explain a little bit more how it works.
I was just thinking about the steps now when you were talking about grieving, and thinking how it'd be good for us to discuss it. So the program as it's built now is it maintains anonymity, because we want people to feel safe and be able to express themselves without worrying that anyone knows who they are. However, there is a sense of community in there, because we have survey self-identifier questions like, do you need an apology to forgive? And then after we answer that, it comes up and shows how many people in the app needed an apology to forgive and how many didn't. So as you feel that kind of sense of community, even though your anonymity is protected. So there's that. The steps of the program, F is for finding the facts. And that's basically, how do we separate the facts from the stories? An event happened. There's no denying that. We feel we were wronged. That's the truth. That's a fact. But there are stories that we created around those facts. And so, so in that first step, we help separate those. And then we have tools all throughout the program that help support being able to process that step. O is for owning your feelings. And it's such a hard thing to do because we're not really taught what feelings really are. I mean, we know happy, sad, mad. And then I don't know if you saw Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. She does an amazing example of this. And we just saw it 2 weeks ago, and I called Denise and I'm like, oh, she's talking about owning your feelings. It was so great. And it was so validating because we have it in the program, how hard it is. Because we can't really distinguish like emotions, especially those hybrid ones. Am I feeling fear? Or am I feeling a little disgust? Am I feeling this? And so not being able to name them and understand, how can we process them? So we teach that in O. In R, it's releasing. And it's releasing resentment, rumination, and revenge. And revenge sounds like it could be like, Godfather revenge, but it's not. It's the revenge is the fantasy that I have that the person, let's say someone wronged me, and I'm fantasizing that I'm going to bump into them, and I'm just going to know exactly what to say to them when I see them, that kind of fantasy revenge. Rumination is a really big one. And so is resentment. So we go through what it is like to release all three of those. And again, the tools that support the user in being able to do that. G is for grieving. And that was a hard one to write because there's so much there, and we're grieving something every day. If we're really honest with ourselves, right? I'm grieving who I was yesterday. Tomorrow, I'm going to be grieving who I am today. And I'm grieving not living in the house in Malibu, I mean, there's just so many things that come up. And so we take people through the process of that and honoring that and feeling like that it's really important for us to have reverence for that stage. Denise, do you want to do the other ones?
I knew you were going to do that.
I do. I keep going.
I was like, I'm listening along like I'm a viewer, like, wow, this sounds like a really good program.
I mean, I didn't want to Mike, but.
I is for, no, I would love to. Thank you. I also want to add on to grieving, if I might. And it's, for me, a lot of times the grief is an unmet expectation, disappointment in someone or something that didn't happen the way I made up it was going to happen. And we're experiencing those every single day. I is for integrating. And it's taking all of the things that we've taught and all of the parts of ourselves and collecting it back in and processing it and digesting. V is for validating. And it's really about humanizing the other. When we can see ourselves in another person, then we're able to forgive them easier. We're all human. We do a funny example in the app of using Pablo Escobar because, I mean, like, how do you forgive Pablo Escobar, right? Well, you do, because he's a human being, he's a man. And he loved his family and he loved his wife and he still cheated on her. But like, he had the compassion and capability to be loved because he loved others. And E is embrace. Mm-hmm. And we take the practice of forgiveness and all the things we learned, and we are crowned Forgivity ambassadors and luminaries to go out into the world and spread this practice wherever we are, just by living a forgiving life. And that's the end of the 7-step process. And then after that, there's unlimited interaction. We're working on Forgivity 2.0, actually, that is not only working on the program we have now and bringing some really cool interactive stuff into it, but going into the next step, exploring self-forgiveness, apology, so many things that come along with transgression and being in intimate human relationship.
Well, I love every one of those steps because, I mean, you both beautifully articulated it, but each one takes a lot of time. So I love that you can like sit with each, I mean, especially the integration part. I mean, integration is what it's all about. It's practicing in everyday life, the things that you're learning along. So unlike most courses or anything you take online where you kind of speed right through it, I love that you're able to just sit with each letter and really learn about yourself more throughout the process, which is so important, which is going to expand so much more than just forgiveness. So I appreciate, for someone who needs, like I said, something tactile, that's the way that I learn. I really appreciate the fact that you kind of are putting it in black and white and allowing us to sit with each one of those and see what comes up for us and learn and grow with each one. You know, and forgiveness is a funny thing for me personally, because I'm in the public eye somewhat, and a lot of my pain and trauma is being played out in, you know, the press. And I tend to stay quiet about most things because I'm working on it all. You know, I don't have all the answers, and I do want to help others who've gone through similar, you know, traumas and relationships. But every day I'm growing, every day I'm working, every day I'm learning. But there's so many levels to it. And then one day I'll see, especially with forgiveness, I'll get to a place where like I appreciate what happened. Like I'm grateful for them, you know, and I live in that and how beautiful that is. And then like the next month I'm dropped down into, you son of a bitch, you know? so it's so funny. The integration process is the ups and downs. It's nothing that's going to, you know, be smooth sailing all the way. We can ask for it with ease, but we're humans having this experience. And, you know, especially us women, we're moving with the moon cycles and everything. So our moods are going to change and everything, but to have grace with yourself throughout this. But the ultimate goal, when you really do get there, because I've seen glimpses of it, is to appreciate and be grateful for what happened. And there's really nothing to forgive because they helped you on your process of self-awareness and growth. And I know that's really hard, especially for those who've gone through some really horrific trauma, to say, you know, there's some gratitude in your heart for it, but eventually you'll see those glimpses. And I guess the ultimate goal of enlightenment is to stay and live in that. And but I'm happy for the little glimpses that I get here and there of it, because it really feels great.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. They're gifts. They are gifts and messages from beyond that come to you that way. And that is that we really believe, both Denise and I, that is the goal. But to say in the app right away that there's nothing to forgive, people are going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Right. But it is, but it is, you know, we get to that place of gratitude because if we believe in the hero and heroine's journey, we call in every single one of our ruptures for our own personal transformation. And so it is, thank you. Thank you for coming into this play of life with me and having to sacrifice your own integrity so that I may be able to get to my highest self. If we start to see it that way, and that may not be for everybody, you know, but it's certainly when we look at the Yoga Vedas in the scriptures, that's how it's described, and that's the lineage that I follow. But and all the paths are different, but the goal is one. And so everything is forgivable. We believe everything is forgivable. Are we am I forgiving every single thing in my life right now? Absolutely not. I'd like to, but it's good to know what the goal is. It's good to know what we're striving for. And I'm not a victim in any of it. Because as soon as we change the paradigm to this is happening for me and not to me, we reclaim ourselves. And so, yeah, there's a lesson in everything. And so I'm so happy. I mean, Dina, you get it so much. Seriously. I mean, you're hired. You're hired.
I'm in. Yay.
I mean, yeah, really, you really understand exactly the essence of what Denise and I are trying. I don't want to just say teach, because really guide. We just went through all the research and saw that there was holes there, and we were like, wow, this is an opportunity. Everyone's missing out on this. How can we help? How can we contribute to humanity in some way? And this is it.
Yeah. How can
It's
we fill in the
so good.
cracks? Sorry.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. It's just so
How
good.
could we fill in the cracks? Oh my God, I did it again. I'm so
No,
sorry.
go.
No, it's okay.
I love the filling in the cracks, because that's what I feel like we're all, we're on this path. All of us are awakening, and we're all doing our little part to fill in the cracks and make this world, earth, whole again. And forgiveness is such a tremendous part of it. Like I said, not even when we started this conversation, not even for the other person. Let's be selfish about it.
Yeah.
It's for us and our well-being and our healthy body.
Yeah, exactly. And getting our sleep back.
Yes. Oh gosh, I need water. Interesting enough, I do a lot of EMDR therapy. I talk about it a lot.
Yeah, we're both.
And what I'm realizing is, emotionally and spiritually, I think I'm nailing this shit. I go up and down and all that, of course, like I said, but I get it and I see the glimpses. So I have the tools. I've been building the spiritual toolbox for 25 years before it was cool to do all this stuff. And of course, like I said, I'm human and we drop down. But what I was ignoring, a lot of it was what it's done for me physically, and holding on to that anger and pain and frustration in my, like you said, in your cells and in your fascia and all of it. And I think I'm into the part of this journey where I'm realizing how much physical plays a part in all of it. So for anyone who's dealing with any, little disruptions in their body, disease or anything, really take a look at what it means spiritually, because there is something going on there. There's something to be healed. And especially when we talk about, some of the, every disease is important, but when you think about cancers and everything, where it's lying in your body, and do a little, I love Louise Hay, where she explains everybody, has a spiritual representation of emotions and feelings. Where do you think, and I know this is like a broad question, but does forgiveness, or being able, once you forgive, does it open up your heart? Where do you feel like that settles?
Oh, that's a great question.
That is a great question. My knee-jerk response is definitely the heart. And for different people, other areas as well. Like think about, I'm thinking of chakras too. Think about the person that was traumatized and didn't use their voice. The person that is anxious because of their experience and doesn't breathe deeply. So like these different parts of our body are affected by the behavior or the response to the trauma. And when we heal the trauma, then they will go back to normal.
Yeah.
And people will be able to breathe deeper. Their chest will open. They'll find the power in their voice again. So their throat will be less constricted. For some people, fertility, like the stress that causes infertility, their abdomen will be less constricted, and there'll be more blood flow everywhere to every single part of the body. So yes, 100% to the heart for everyone. And then the heart feeds everything anyway.
I mean, right away, it's funny, I do these cleanses where I detox like every organ at a time, and I always get stuck at the liver and the kidneys, always. And that's fear, that's anger. And that's why I was like, what is deep seated, and what am I mad about deep down inside? Let's get to the belly of this beast, because there's something. For a woman who does not drink or do drugs, my liver has a hard time processing things a lot. So I go right, like you really have to correlate the two. And that's what I'm in the middle of learning. And it's fascinating. And I just wanted to touch upon that on this particular podcast, only because it was just this week that I kind of realize how important the mind, body, spirit connection is. And the body is such a huge part, but it could also give you amazing clues to what you're holding on to, whether it's heartbreak, sadness, like you said, not using your voice. Pay attention to what's ailing you, because there'll be a secret little code in there as well.
When I was sick, you texted me and you told me what part of what the source was to the part of the body that was ailed.
So important.
There's the first time I started learning about the magic of forgiveness, I was taking a writing course with Dr. Wayne Dyer. And there was just a few hundred of us that were there. And there was a woman in a wheelchair, and she had been raped and left for dead. And so they're telling her story. I mean, everyone's like, it was just so powerful. And she said, and I forgave him. And she got up from her wheelchair. She was never going to walk again. And she got up from her wheelchair and she walked. Wow. And so he had many examples on the power of forgiveness, how it works, the miracles that it works in our lives, including with his own story, and how he came about by writing his first book right after he forgave his father. Literally drove from the cemetery, went and rented a hotel room, locked himself in there for 4 weeks, and wrote his book. And so creativity is also blocked from living in unforgiveness. And so what part of the body does it affect? Well, the body, again, just according to the yoga scriptures, is the last stop. So we have these oral energies all around us. They're called koshas. And so by the time there's an energetic block that's happening, it's going to go to the most susceptible part of our body. The part that is either genetically somehow predisposed to something, or some other weaker part of our body, and then will help magnify whatever's there, whatever characteristics are there. So, but yeah, so ever since that weekend, I was like, wow, there is something to forgiveness. And I started with my family. And that was probably a good, I would say, at least 10 years ago. And it does take time. I can't say that I'm still working on it. I feel with my family, I feel like I've gotten there. Are there little things that family does? Of course, absolutely. Transgressions come. We're failing each other all the time. I mean, it's just part of family. But having that, like to Denise's point, that forgiveness fluency is already part of my language, where I just already know that it's like, it's okay. I've already humanized every single person. I already understand all of that. I know that it's not done out of malice. I know this, I know that. And I know that like the vibrational frequency that I want to be living with them on. And so there's that. Now they also have done work, right? So it takes, that's not every person's familial situation. However, if they weren't willing to do that, I was still willing to forgive. I was still willing to let go, and with love, right? Without judgment, with compassion. And so it was really, really a beautiful turning point for me once I saw that firsthand, that magic and those miracles.
Yeah, I mean, the elephant in the room for me is my relationship with my family. And it's so complicated because there's still things that are obviously, what happened with my ex-husband and the intertangling of it all there. There's so many layers to it, but I really feel like I can put my head on my pillow every night because, like I said, energetically, I've forgiven everyone involved in all of it. And I'm sure there's things they need to forgive me for as well. So right now I've done the work energetically. I don't know, like you said, if they're doing the work on their end, and that's a super important part of it, but time will tell. And, the universe will bring things together when they're supposed to. I have to say, it's funny again, how we learn certain things. I have one daughter, as you guys know, and I think if she had siblings, I would be like on a mission to make this right, like immediately, because I would want to show her, I always want you to work it out with your siblings. And I would never want to, as a mom, I understand how my dad felt and my mom still feels, and it breaks my heart. So I think I would feel a little differently if Lexi had some siblings that I had to show, because as we all know, we can say everything we want to kids, but they're watching us, so they're going to do what we say.
Yeah.
And we did grow up with my dad not talking to his brother for X amount of years, and my mom not talking to her sister. And she does regret it now. My mom and her sister are really tight. And now that they're, older, it's a beautiful thing to see them come back together. But there was so much more around it. Their husbands, the mess of it all. Now they're able to connect just the two of them without the distractions of who they have to please around them. So if people will listen to this and say, what are you having a podcast about forgiveness when you can't even forgive? Like you don't know the layers of it, first of all. And yes, I've forgiven some stuff that people would be like, I can't even believe, if they could Google my name, that I have personal feelings of forgiveness with it all, but there is a judicial system for a reason, and there are consequences for people's actions and stuff like that. That's out of my hands. But all I have to worry about is my side of the street, the energy that I'm giving out. I do not give out any hate, or there are moments, like I said, I'm human. There are moments like my head just exploded on social media after being quiet for so many years and said something. So, it was boiling over, and I'm human, and that's going to happen. And you have to give yourself grace. And it's what you do with it after that really counts. And the energy, like you said, the vibration that you choose to vibrate on. And hopefully, eventually, this is a ripple effect that will happen for each of us individually. The more we clean up our side of the street and our integrity and our energy, the more everyone does the same. And eventually this whole planet will be healed, because it needs it right now more than anything. So I appreciate what you ladies are putting out there. It is so needed. It's so beautiful. I see it getting bigger and better. You said Forgivity 2.0. It's going to be beyond that. I know it is.
Thank you.
We'll put links below, so you're a click away to joining the forgiveness energy that we all should be really settling into, especially in these crazy times in this world. The more we work on this forgiveness, the better this world will become. So thank you, ladies, for your contribution to humanity. And you're both so beautiful, and I love you very much. And I can't wait to do this again.
Thank you, Dina. You spot it, you got it, girl.
Love you guys.